it's been hard because I've been through commenting back and trying to fight with people or trying to be very kind or whatever. But I think you just have to find this place of authenticity and confidence.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. My name's Cam.
I'm David.
And we have Rachel, the one and only, our producer, who is usually behind the cameras and has agreed graciously to join us in front of them.
Now time for some deep questions.
Yeah.
This is the first time, right?
First time.
First time in how many years?
7 or 8. Has it been 7 or 8 since we've
That's what we want to know from you.
Oh boy, I should have this down.
Yeah.
How long have you worked for Saints Unscripted?
Okay, I think our first video was in 2016. Does that sound right?
Neither of us were
okay.
here.
I was on my mission.
I think it was.
You were on your mission?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
My goodness. Yep. So it's been a long time.
Okay.
At least 7 years.
7 years, and
I've never hated it. Just kidding. I've been around the whole time. Yeah.
How did you get involved with Saints Unscripted?
So, I have the worst memories, so I need to credit the right people, but I'm afraid that I might miss some people. But one of my coworkers, Hua, who's also fabulous, we should have him on actually. He had this idea to venture into the YouTube, whatever you want to call it, universe. Yeah, the terrors of YouTube. He decided it was time. And he talked about having a show where there were 3 hosts and they just talked about
whatever
LDS stuff. And he works like doing international projects. So it was kind of like he had this idea, but wanted to pass it off. So my coworker and I kind of started brainstorming and hired some personalities, and it was fun. It started off as 3 Mormons. We learned a lot, almost got canceled a few times, but here we are. We made it.
Can you tell people what your responsibilities are? Before I came on the show, I heard producer and it was just like,
I know. I don't know. I don't even know if, I don't think producer's even the right I think that we just don't, there's so many hats that it's like, here's your few hats. A lot of what I do is actually communicating with converts and other people that are commenting on our channel. So and that's one of the reasons why I would have a hard time handing it off to anyone, is because I have these relationships with these people that are trying to, grow or have big questions. And
so if you ever message Saints Unscripted and say, I want to come on an episode, you are communicating with Rachel.
Yep.
Is that's on Instagram?
Uh-huh.
Facebook?
Uh-huh.
YouTube doesn't really have a direct
message. I
do you
read
delete
all the
YouTube
comments though.
Are you the one that's
I don't do all the moderation, but I read every comment.
You read every comment.
I'm sure there could be a few that I've
YouTube.
missed, but yeah, on YouTube.
Wow.
Even as they come in on like old videos?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Really?
So whatever, I actually don't look at them per video. I just watch them come in on whatever videos they come in.
You have like a feed of like just the newest stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
So okay.
Toxic. I was gonna ask, like, what's the ratio of like good, neutral, bad?
If there's like conversion stories, they're usually pretty positive. Faith and Beliefs has different kinds of comments. I would say those are probably more negative.
That's a nice way of putting it.
But I think they're all useful. I mean, I benefit from reading most of them because I feel like it pushes us in whatever direction we need to go in as far as content goes.
It's a very open-minded perspective.
Yeah, and it's also, I will say, I think it's important to note that having done this for a while and seeing lots of these comments and questions, I have been through a lot of faith crises myself, particularly because of the comments that I'm reading. But I have such a support. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that primarily being up to date on my personal study has been most important thing. Has been if I read the scriptures, if I read the Book of Mormon that morning, I'm better prepared to confront the comments. And then I also have all of you guys, or particularly my parents, who are also well researched in these topics. But I think I've come to a place now where there's not a lot of comments that surprise me. I'm sure there could be, but I feel like it's easier to confront when I have gone.
You're at the settled simplicity stage.
Yes.
Things.
Shout out Bruce Haven.
Yes,
and Marie.
Bruce and Marie.
Bruce and Marie.
That's a nice place to be, though, because it's it sounds like it's been an education
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
you.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so you've been doing this for several years now. What are like the top like 2 or 3 takeaways for you as far as like what you've learned? And that can be just whatever comes to mind. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like a spiritual thing. It can be like a social media thing or like a responding to comments thing or whatever, just whatever comes to mind. What are some of the top things that you've learned?
I've kind of seen that, and maybe you guys feel this way as well, that people who, the ones that are loudest, can shut down voices really easily. But for those,
even if they're the minority too.
Usually they're the minority, yes. But you feel when you do things like this, you feel like they're the majority.
They're the ones shouting
all the time on our comments. But if I were to go onto their channel and say something to correct perhaps some truth about the church that they've misrepresented, if I were to say something, that would be a big blunder and you're pretty much canceled. We're in this space that's very tricky to present our faith and our beliefs without receiving lots of criticism, but being okay with that criticism being there and not fighting it, because if we do,
it makes it worse.
It makes it worse. And it's been hard because I've been through, commenting back and trying to fight with people or trying to be very kind or whatever. But I think you just have to find this place of authenticity and confidence in your faith.
Just smile and let it roll off your mouth.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first 6 months, I would read the comments and cry and cry and cry. Lots of tears over this channel. But since
That's why
then,
I don't read the comments.
I know.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, though. Like, just like the idea of having the paradigm of paying attention to the quiet voices.
Yes.
As opposed to those that are more just like trying to attract your attention and kind of discerning like who is there just to break something and who is there to build something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
So besides managing Cam, what is the hardest part about what you do?
Yeah, that's 90% of the difficulty. I think the hardest part, among many minor difficult things, is watching people struggle when they don't need to be struggling. There's a lot of positivity and spiritual experiences that can occur. And I think we overthink like our faith a lot. And we let things bother us and this isn't to minimize people's difficulties with a lot of church content. I mean, I've been there and I still am there with some things, but I do think that there's a lot of value in the basics of our faith and the simplicity of our faith. I don't know. So it's hard for me to watch people struggle like that because I just want them to know that
they're doing great.
They're doing great and God's there. And yeah.
I think we see that a lot with the guests that come on the show is they say like, I don't have anything like powerful to say. I don't, but they end up sharing their stories in the most humble way possible.
That's the beauty.
And those are the ones that mean the most.
And those conversion stories, particularly like right before this, we filmed a conversion story. And the guest was nervous, super nervous to be on the show. And which is normal. Everyone. And I think they feel inadequate to share. But that's the most requested video besides Faith and Beliefs. Right next to Faith and Beliefs is conversion stories. I think because people resonate with the simplicity of your testimony.
What's been, you mentioned you've been through a couple of faith crises.
Yeah.
What's been your conversion story through those? So
I grew up in a family where things were questioned frequently, and it was normal and fine to question things. And even my dad would question us on a lot of our, I don't know, not necessarily testimonies, but things that we believed. But I do feel bad when people who haven't been able to question things, who have had these black and white, Joseph Smith was a true prophet, did nothing wrong, or he's a false prophet, which makes it very difficult to navigate faith. And I think that's why maybe I've had an easier time going through faith crises, is still faith crises because I've been challenged in many ways. But I think that people need to get to a spot where they can be comfortable with there being gray area, a middle ground. Yeah.
You haven't felt like you've had to feel guilty about having questions, or
exactly.
You haven't been shamed because, or said that your faith is lesser than.
Yes. But there have been a few times where I've been close to putting my faith aside for a second. And I will say, like, one instance had nothing to do with the comments. It had to do with an experience I had in the temple that was very negative for me. But I have a strong testimony of the temple and of the things that occur, and am familiar with the history. So it's interesting how things can pop up, but it has always been in instances when I have not been diligent in my personal study. I'm not saying that's for everyone. That's just what I've seen. The common theme for me has been a lack of priority and diligence in the gospel has led me to experience faith crises for me.
So what does your personal study look like then?
Basic.
Or is it just
Nothing
like
intense.
maybe not like do you have like a set pattern and schedule, or is it just like whenever you can just like do something?
Yep, that. It's very simple.
It doesn't need to be complicated.
There's no complexity to my personal study, and it's random. Yeah. So.
Do you have favorite passages or books or?
Yes. I love Doctrine and Covenants, actually.
Really?
Yes, I do. My favorite passage is Doctrine and Covenants 84-88. Talks about angels surrounding you as you preach the gospel. I've always loved that one. I've always felt like there are angels earthside, and that there's difficulty in sharing your faith, but you're buoyed up by these angels that are present. I love the passages. I think it's 122 when Joseph Smith is in jail.
Liberty Jail, yeah.
Yep. And is it 122 or 123? I don't know. Somewhere on there.
120s.
Regardless, in the 120s.
It's in the 120s.
And I love the passages where God is saying, Jesus has passed through all these things. Art thou greater than he? Like, you can pass through these things as well. And that, I'm going to give you all the strength you can possibly need. Even while he's here in jail. I don't know. I love these stories of even when you're in the trenches, God delivers. So, yeah.
It's kind of a nice way of saying, suck it up. You're going to be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
This Jesus guy went through a lot more than you did. So
I know. It's kind of intense.
Be fine. So Saints Unscripted has been around since 2016. That's like 8 years, almost 8 years.
Yeah.
What can we expect moving? Because you've got, since that time, you've gotten married, had 2 kids. You're still going to be the producer, though, for
I love what I do. I love communicating with our audience. I love it so much that even it keeps me up at night type thing. Like, I want to be messaging people as much as I can. I love communicating with the guests that we have on. It would be really hard for me to leave this because of how many connections. And this is a shout out to you guys. If you need, I don't know, a friend in the faith in your journey, message me.
She reads
message
all of them.
me. I will message you back and we can be friends.
And if you feel like you have something to share, but you're not sure if it's going to resonate with people, do it anyway, because it's the simplest stories that seem to make the biggest difference.
For sure.
Come on our show. Send us a message on Instagram.
Love you guys. Thanks for being here for so long.
See you on the next one.